This show is brought to you in part by some amazing people. I like to call them my Patreon podcast producers. They're all on Instagram, so go give them a follow. Daryl at Your Level Fitness, Amy at Gym of the Gym, that's GEM of the GYM, Caitlin at Caitlin Elise. Make sure you put a Y in her name. That's 3 Ys because she's 3 times as awesome. Crystal at Reduced Fat Mama. I always love that name. Very clever. And Emily at M is the Biggest Loser. That's EM is the Biggest Loser. But guess what? She's a winner, as is all of these fine folks. And if you want to have your name read right here alongside of them, stay tuned to the end of the show for more details. Are you Team Apple? I got to shout out all of you checking out this show right now on an iPhone, iPad, etc. In fact, nearly 70% of you are listening to me on one of these devices. It would mean the world to me if you took a moment to leave a review. This is one of the best things that you can do for this podcast to help get the word out. And while you're at it, leave reviews for some of your other favorite shows. I bet they would really dig it. Oh, yeah! Chase, how you doing, brother?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's Friday treating you?
Friday is not treating me bad, man. I worked from home today, so it's been all right.
Working from home is a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Is that how much of that makes up your work? Because I know some jobs they'll let you be remote completely. Some jobs it's like half and half. How much do you work from home?
Typically, it's just 1 day a week. I do some traveling and stuff like that too. Not a ton, but have in the last couple weeks. But generally, man, I mean, most of the time I'm at the office, but usually 1 day a week I can work from home. So, how
do you like traveling? Because I know that, like, me personally, if I could travel for my job, and that's what I'm trying to do here with this podcast, but it's like, how do you like the travel aspect?
So I mean, I really enjoy traveling. It's harder now because, now that I've got kids, it's tough to kind of balance.
Sure.
I want to be at home. I want to be at home with my family, but I do enjoy getting to travel and especially go to places I've never been before, which my job has given me the opportunity to do. And I really appreciate, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough trying to figure out a balance for it. Cause like I said, I enjoy it, but, I'm very much needed here at the house too. So,
oh, I get it, and definitely here on the podcast, balance is a big thing we talk about. I guess the final thing on the work thing, what industry? You don't have to say where you work, obviously. But what industry are you in?
So I'm in the health industry. I actually work for a lab in. They're all really throughout the U.S. It's a worldwide lab, but they're all over the U.S. And I actually I kind of have worked in labs for the last 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Out of network labs. And it's not like my background or anything. It just so happens to be what I got into when I moved to Texas, and lucked up, man, and landed an IT business analyst role. So
wow.
Now I actually get to work in the IT department and get out of the smelly lab, which has been fantastic. So.
Well, tech is one of the things I love a lot, but it's interesting to hear that kind of story. I mean, obviously I'm sure you didn't grow up saying, hey, one day I'm going to be an IT guy or working in the health industry. So it sounds like it just naturally got to that point.
Yeah. Well, I went to college for, 2.5 years or so, wasn't able to get my degree finished. And I was going for computer engineering. I kept kind of honing my skills more towards like the design side of things. I enjoyed building web pages.
Yeah.
But wasn't able to finish the degree and ended up going to work for Little Debbie, man. Worked for the snack cake company for like 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
And, ended up coming away from that, going in the lab, and somewhere, roundabout, come back into the IT field. So yeah, it's been a long road to get into IT, but I made it.
No, that's really awesome. It's funny you mentioned Little Debbie. My second job I ever had was a retail job with CVS. And one of the guys that worked there, that was just like his part-time gig so he could get the insurance and all that stuff for his family. But his full-time job at the time was a Little Debbie truck driver. You know, he bought a route. It was his route, and he would go out, and he actually took me out one time. This would have been 2003, and we just went all around, and he showed me how it was done. And I was like, wow, this is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, there were difficulties about that job, but like just seeing machine automation always blew me away, and the kind of stuff that they have going there is just it's insane. So I mean, it was always really interesting just to kind of watch the way stuff like that's made. So I enjoyed being a part of it, and there's a lot of really cool people that work there too. So
I bet it sounds like you're like a really big tech guy. When did tech become like a fascination of yours? Was it like when the internet boom kind of happened, or when did you become really into tech and stuff?
Man, honestly, it was when I was probably a sophomore or junior in high school. I had a buddy of mine, Patrick, and I had asked him like, "Hey, can you teach me everything you know about computers?" And he's like, no. He's like, I spent years learning this stuff. You just have to sit and play with it. So from then, I mean, this was back when, computers just started getting CD burners, and I'm like, I gotta figure out how to burn a CD. So it kind of went from there. And I've just always been so blown away by like what we can actually create ourselves through technology, just based on the stuff that's available for, individual use, personal use.
Right.
So I've just always kind of morphed from there, got into, photography, shooting stuff and video and things like that. And computers, of course, kind of took it all to a whole new level for me. So yeah, I've always been a techie. It drives my wife crazy because I mean, I could look at a new gadget every week,
Oh, believe me, I'm in the same boat. My wife, I feel like times if I buy anything else, she's going to kill me. But luckily, and this is not a plug in any way, shape, or form for the people that are listening, but I do this Patreon thing, and now when the money comes in from that and I'm buying stuff, I can at least go to her and say, look, I didn't spend my own money on this. The listeners are paying for this, and I don't have to like get a bunch of heat with the wife. So that's always good.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
Exactly. So no, that's cool, man. I can definitely identify with the tech. And are you a PC or a Mac guy?
Actually, man, I'm a little bit of both. So I work on a PC at my job, but I have a Mac at home now.
Yeah.
The Mac I have at home, I don't do as much on, but like we've really kind of converted everything we have in our house is Apple.
Yeah, now you're talking. I got to be honest with you, Chase. This conversation that we're having on the podcast could have gone one way or the other. Okay, you understand me? And if you would have leaned the other, okay. I should clarify. I'm not anti-PC in any way, shape, or form, but no, very similar to what you're saying. I've converted like crazy to Apple stuff. I have the router, I have the Mac, I have the iPad, the phone, and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, I just got my parents hooked up with phones. We added them to our cell phone account, and they had some different Droid phones or whatever, and we got them some iPhones, and it was just like, it's exciting because I want to teach them the technology, but it's so much for them to get used to. They've never had an iPhone, so it was an interesting experience, but they're super excited about it. So it was just I love to also push technology onto other people too.
No, I hear you. The funny thing about it is my mother, of all people, like in the last, I want to say 3 or 4 years, really gravitated to technology. Like I was incredibly shocked when she came and asked me the first time, hey, what's the deal with this iPhone thing? Cause she always had not even a Droid. She had like a flip phone. So she didn't even get to go to that crap that was a Droid that, she went right to the iPhone and dove right in. Next thing you know, she's got an iPad. She's playing Candy Crush. She's on Facebook. Crazy.
There you go.
Yeah. It was absolutely nuts.
I get on my mom because, my parents bought my grandmother an iPad. Well, she's like on Facebook now, and she's
right.
All over the place. And my mom won't get Facebook. And I said, Grandma's doing it. Like, why? Get on there. What are you doing?
Yeah. That's weird that you mentioned that because I'm sure many people can relate, including yourself. But like when you see like a grandparent or an aunt and an uncle that like, you've known all your life, and the moment you get a friend request from them, it's like this like weird thing. Like in a way you're happy. You're like, oh, this is really cool. But in the other way, you're like, man, this is like really weird. Like my uncle that I used to like hang out with and slam Coors Lights with is like hanging out on Facebook now, like posting memes and stuff. It's like, what is going on here?
Oh yeah, when they start using memes, that's when it's hit another level for me.
Oh my God. Isn't that wild?
It's awesome, yeah.
or the favorite one is like when they post a status like all lowercase, like hi everybody, or just hi, and you're like, oh wow, they're just figuring this out, aren't they?
Well, my mom sent me a message the other day, and she started using memes, which brought a little bit of a tear to my eye because I use memes all the time. But
right.
She's like shorthand texting me, and I was like, are you sending me shorthand text? And she's like, well, yeah, is that a problem? I was like, no, I'm so proud of you right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. When my mother started sending like pictures and stuff through text, I was just like blown away. And then of course, like with Apple, and I'm not going to make this big Apple commercial, but like you put them on the, like I have the family sharing on my iCloud account. So like mom and dad are hooked up with like Apple Music. I bought the family Apple Music, and the Find My Friends. My mother doesn't have to text me and ask me where I'm at all the time. I just like, hey, look on the map. Here's where I'm at. And then the question changes from, hey, where are you at, to why are you there? Just
yeah.
It's dude, it blows me away. So I'm just wondering here, as I always try to figure out on these podcasts, like how did we get connected? Because Instagram is a wild place, man. It's a lot of great people, a lot of inspiring people, a really great community. We could talk about the connections you've made, but how did we get connected? Because I don't even remember now.
Well, honestly, I started following you pretty early on from when I started the account. Right?
Okay.
So I have two accounts, and I created this one because I'm like, hey, I want this account to be the account that I'm like really putting my journey out there on.
Sure.
And I don't know how it was, but I kind of saw your stuff and started following you pretty early on.
Well, I know you do DDP Yoga. Maybe somehow you found me through there. Maybe that was the ticket. I don't know.
It's possible. I've also kind of followed Fat Girl Fed Up for a while.
Yeah.
It could have been through that, man, because when I saw that you, I didn't realize, I'm like, holy cow, she's wearing his gear like all the time.
I do appreciate her. That blows me away to, because here's the thing with that. And again, I try to like choose my words carefully because I don't want to make anything seem like it's a ad while we're in the middle of talking, but like that whole thing was created for people like her, for people like you, for people like me, for the people that are listening to this podcast that are busting their ass day in, day out, trying to make something happen. Like when someone like her or anybody wears it, that's in the grind, man, they're just making it happen. That's what it was made for, because you can say cute little catchphrases. You can put them on a meme and share it on Instagram and get 100 likes or what have you. But when you're out there living it, that's the magic right there. And so when I see somebody like her rocking that, I'm just like, man, I can talk about it. I can make this phrase, and I trademarked it with the government and everything, but she's out there living it, man. And that to me just blows my mind.
Yeah. I mean, she's phenomenal. I remember, I followed her on Instagram for a little while, and I remember I was in Walmart one day,
right,
and saw her picture on a magazine. I was like, oh heavens. It's like, this is big. But she has another shirt I've seen her wear in pictures, and I'm like, man, I want that shirt so bad, but I'm still a pretty big guy, and I still have to, I got to wait a bit on the cool shirts. But she's got one that it's gray and it turns darker as she sweats, and it spells out, I can go home now.
Oh yeah. I remember that shirt. That's an awesome shirt.
Oh, I know, man. I was like, I want that so bad.
What size are you at right now?
Man, I am just coming into 6Xs. So I posted a picture a few weeks back of me getting into a 6X Wally World shirt, which I'm in all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like Ernest P. World, man. I got a real limited wardrobe, and it's a lot of, the same shirts all the time. Anybody that knows me knows that,
right.
Chase shows up in basketball shorts and t-shirts all the time. But I'm about in 6X shirts. If I'm just waiting to get like into 5s and stuff, because I've got some clothes waiting in the wing for when I do.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, when we get off of here, send me a DM with your information. I'd love to send you out a 4X because I know how important like goal shirts are and how you can look at something and get inspired by it. So I'd love to do that for you. I'd love to send you out a 4X as like a goal shirt. So remind me about that when we get off of here, and send me a DM with all your information, and I'll make sure we get that handled for you.
Well, sweet, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've bought a couple of the shirts from DDP Yoga that are 4X, and I'm like, kind of like what you're saying. Like those are my goal shirts. I can't wait till I can, do videos of me actually, working out in that shirt, because their gear is awesome, and then I'd love to support that whole program, and even your shirts as well. So those definitely are big goals.
Well, definitely. And what I'd say is, what might be interesting. It's like if you try to take one of those shirts and throw it on now and take a picture, even if you don't like how it looks, and then when you actually get in them, put that as like a side by side. I think that would like kill on Instagram. I'm just saying. I'm just going to throw that out there. But before we get to the yoga and all that stuff, this podcast, we go way back, man. So let's go all the way back, your childhood and all that stuff. Like, first of all, are you Texas born and raised and all that?
No, man, I'm actually kind of from all over the place, but I'm originally from Tennessee. I was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay, cool.
And moved around a lot with my parents off and on. So we would move, we would move to, either Georgia or North Carolina. And then I always make my way back to Tennessee, and came to Texas in 2011. So. Okay.
Was somebody in your family in the military, or you guys just like to move?
No, my dad, he was really good at what he did. So
yeah,
he was always getting sought out, and he'd move from one company to the next and stuff like that. So we just got to move around a lot for that. But I've always been asked that if we were in the military.
Well, I can relate, because my biological father, I'll just put that nicely, he was in the Navy. And so as a result, we had to move across the country a couple of times, back and forth between Virginia, where we're at now, and he's not here, but and then San Diego, California, which is where he was stationed for many years. So I can identify with the move. And unfortunately, I didn't get to go to many different places. It was either Virginia or California. It was one or the other.
Yeah, I've got to live in Virginia with my parents too. Virginia is pretty cool.
Where in Virginia were you living?
So they actually lived in a place that was close to Martinsville. That's what I usually tell people is, hey, it was near Martinsville.
Okay, so more south.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm just outside of DC in Springfield area. I don't know if you ever heard of that. So when you were younger, like, was weight kind of always an issue for you, or did it come a little later in life?
Honestly, man, it came a little later. I mean, I kind of always had a little bit of baby fat, on me from my stomach. But
same here.
Other than that, I was just like a runt, man. I didn't start putting on weight until I was like 16 years old.
Interesting. And what do you think? What do you think it was about it around that time? Was it hey, maybe you're like me, spending too much time on the computer?
Oh no, I know exactly what it was. So my parents, they actually got divorced around the time I was 16.
I see.
I would say that, like, growing up, it's definitely not, it doesn't have anything to do with their divorce. It was just the timing of it. But my parents were always really good about, we ate food at the house. My dad's always grilling chicken. They're making vegetables. We ate, very normal, typical meals, not like uber healthy, but, we also never really went out to eat.
Right.
We hardly ever went out to eat as a family. So when they actually split up, I was running around and I got a job at Burger King, and I went bananas. I'm working in Burger King, making food for people while I'm eating food in the back. And I think I put on 100 pounds in, like, man, it had to have been less than a year.
Bro, I can relate. I can relate so hard to what you're saying right now. Now, I was at the competition, McDonald's. I worked there for 4 months and went up 4 pant sizes. Oof. Dude, I can relate, especially with the making the food. Like, so you were, I'm assuming at one point you made it to be a cook?
No, actually, I was never the cook. I was the guy that kind of worked on the line that basically, took the burger patties, put them on buns, and, kind of, constructed it like that.
Right, but you were back there. That's the
Yes, I'm
point.
100% back in the kitchen. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's where it starts. I know, and I don't know if this is the same for you, but like when I started there, I was like, I worked out, as far as like the cleaning, the what they call the lobby, and then I graduated to register. And for those times, like, the meals at that time, this is 1999. I was in high school. I graduated in 2000, but and it was like 1999 going into 2000, and I was like I said, I cleaned up first, then I graduated to the register. And during those times, it was never really a problem. It was just, hey, when you take your lunch or your break or whatever, everything's free. So it's like, okay, cool, supersize this, blah, blah, blah. But then when I got to be a cook, that's when I'm like right there with all the food. So it's like, the little plastic, McDonald's had these little plastic doors where they would put all the meat in after they cooked it and would keep it warm in there. And so I'm just casually opening them up, popping a few nuggets, popping a burger patty here and there. And then when I go on break, just making these massive, triple McDouble, or not McDouble, big and tasty, they were called at the time. They were bigger than quarter pounders. I'd make like triple the patty, extra mac sauce, going hog, brother. It's going nuts.
Well, and I actually worked for McDonald's too when I was 15. So
okay.
I guess, year or so before, and I didn't like begin a love affair with food at McDonald's. I think a lot of it started kind of at Burger King. There was like a year in there in that period where it really all just exploded. But another bad part of it was my mom did a really sweet thing for me, and I was really down and depressed at that time of my life. And, she said, hey, here's this credit card. Go buy a few Christmas gifts for some people. And it was a bad idea for her because she left that with somebody who was very irresponsible with money.
Right.
And at the time, using a credit card to pay for food in, 1999 wasn't really all that common.
Right.
So I'm going to places like Pizza Hut, Red Lobster, just trying to get all the food I can because it's not really food I'd grown up eating. And when I started to taste it, I mean, it blew me away.
And how old are you, by the way?
36, man.
Dude, I'm the exact same age. Get out of here.
Yep.
What's your birthday?
November 12th.
Okay. I'm in August 27th. That's me.
Awesome.
Take note, listeners. No, I'm just kidding. No, dude, I hear you, man. And it's crazy. When you got to be the cook or whatever, or I don't know if you ever did cook, but like, were you making like these massive sandwiches as well?
Oh yeah, man. Like there were times when it would be like, I didn't have time to really make much.
Yeah.
And I would just I would eat a patty. I would eat like a Whopper, just the meat itself. And I'd be grabbing, handfuls of nuggets and just kind of eating on those. And it's just, yeah, I never really realized that like it was having a real negative impact on my health or definitely my weight until all of a sudden I turned around and it was like, holy cow, what happened?
Yeah, you're mentioning grabbing hamburger patties. The keto people are like, they're drooling right now.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, exactly. They love it, man. I love it too, by the way. But yeah, it's crazy when you look at it and how quickly that goes. Cause also, it was not just the food, but then there's also, well, I got to make these supersized milkshakes and they're just like sodas to me. Like I'm just going to refill them all day long. And it just got to a spiral so far out of control. But man, 100 pounds over that time. I mean, that's an incredible gain right there. Wow.
Yeah, I went from 216 to 320, like literally overnight.
Wow. And the thing about that too is like once you get that mindset, and this all goes back to the mindset. I talk about this every week on the podcast. People probably, oh, here he goes with that mindset stuff again. But this is so true. Like everything revolves around the mindset. And so when you develop these habits and this is what you get used to, you got to have more. And then you got to have a little more. And then after that, then you have a little bit more and it just goes insane.
Yeah, it just got to the point to where it's what I needed really just to kind of cope with the emotions,
sure.
Any kind of like difficulty I'm dealing with. You don't recognize at the time that it's becoming that for you, that you're replacing your ability to handle situations with food.
Yeah.
And once you're in it, man, that addiction is just, it's tough.
You ain't kidding, bro. I'll tell you this. I don't know if you've heard this story and people now they're going to really roll their eyes because I share this story frequently, but, I guess that's kind of the thing of having new people in the podcast that you never speak to. And then you start sharing the stories. But, my order at McDonald's, I used to have an order cause I would go home and I drive. My job is like 35 miles away. It's like 70 miles round trip every day. but I'd stop at McDonald's every single night on the way home, and it was 2 McDoubles, sometimes 3. Hold the ketchup, hold the mustard, add the Big Mac sauce, 4-piece nugget, medium chocolate shake every single day, Monday through Friday. And you talk about a habit and the food addiction. I mean, that stuff is real. Did you have any kind of like routines where like you go to certain places on certain days? Like, did it get like really crazy like that?
Mine got really, I mean, mine's always been really bad. Like, I'll tell you a story. When I worked at Little Debbie, I worked, second shift.
Right.
I'd get off at second shift, and I don't know if you've ever ate at Crystal.
Oh God, yes. Are you kidding me? I love that place.
So kind of like a White Castle. So I would leave.
Yes.
And there was a day I left, went there, got a sack full. So I got 12 of these little burgers.
Right.
With a large chili cheese tot, a huge soda, went home, ate that, stayed up long enough for Pizza Hut to open, ordered a large pizza, ate that, went to bed.
Wow.
So that's when I'm like 22. You fast forward, I'm 36 now. Before I started DDP Yoga, I mean, this was literally, man, 3 months ago. I see the Burger King app. They're advertising you can get a Whopper for $1. And I was like, well, that's pretty sweet.
Hell yeah.
I got so hooked on Burger King because it's so close to my work. My typical order was 2 of the original chicken sandwiches.
Yep.
And then you get 2 fries with it. So I would do fries and onion rings, and I'd order a Whopper with a large drink, and sometimes I'd get one of their dessert pies with it. And that was lunch.
Those dessert pies were insane, by the way.
Oh man, their whole menu's insane.
Yeah, no, I Burger King is one of the places I had to swear off permanently. Like for me personally, like, the phrase diet and having like a specific set plan never really works incredibly well for me because I tend to be a picky eater. And so a lot of things I have to eat in repetition, but there were 5 things that absolutely had to be outright just completely banned forever. Soda, McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, Wendy's. So Burger King, I could definitely relate because I'd go there. I didn't have like a specific order with them, but I knew I used to tear up them stackers a lot.
Oh yeah, man. Taco Bell's a bad one for me too. Like I don't know a time I ever went to Taco Bell and didn't order like 6 items for myself.
No, I hear you. Have you managed to stay out of these places, or are you still kind of weaning off of them?
No, man, it's actually pretty crazy. So like since I started this, my wife and I will every now and then go to like a Mexican restaurant, and I'll try to like scale back, have some, like marinated chicken, maybe, and some rice and beans. But like I've stayed away from the fast food restaurants, which is crazy because it's that was always like a real pitfall for me. But I think a lot of it now is just a change in mindset, plus a lot from the support that I get now. It's very different. I'm getting like another level of support that I've never really experienced. So it helps a lot.
Definitely. And I think what I found is like, because I still go to a couple of fast food places, but like it's not very often at all. Like maybe once a week, maybe sometimes every other week. But I just found that like finding like the lesser of 2 evils of certain things. Cause like, Mexican, you mentioned that was huge for me. Taco Bell, I was going there frequently as well. But we have like local places like El Paso here. It's the name of a restaurant here. They're fantastic. And it's all like home cooked type stuff. Even Chipotle, I know they're fast food, but to me, like they may not be the best thing in town, but I think they're the lesser of 2 evils when you look at Chipotle versus Taco Bell, for instance. And so, a lot of the product is a lot more fresh. So, if I have these cravings or whatever, if I go to one of these places and eat a lesser portion of it, that helps tremendously.
Yeah.
And right now, what is your current weight right now?
I think the last time I weighed in last Saturday, I think I was at 456. I think that was since I started my journey in January. That was my first week where I recorded a gain. Right.
And I think the key thing about this too is like, okay, 456. I mean, that's a big number. And obviously you were at a bigger, and you started at, what was you start when you started like measuring it? How much?
521 is where I started.
First of all, it's phenomenal what you've done. Congratulations. I know we've kind of had this talk before, but I want to say it on the podcast. You've done amazing. You're doing amazing, but I want people to really take that in for a moment. These numbers that he's talking about here, because, when you think about like starting a weight loss journey and starting to eat healthier and things like that, like when you're still that big, and I can speak because I was nearly 400, it's like, you've got to realize that you can't just turn everything off at once. I think a lot of people, they fail because they get in the thought of, okay, it's diet time, which means I have to shut everything out that I know and go cold turkey and just eat like 5 pieces of lettuce for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that is not the way to go. I would not advocate that on anyone. So when we're talking here and I'm like, okay, well, and I may not be going to Taco Bell, but I'm still going to Chipotle. And some people that like think of diets, they may groan, but it's like, dude, when you're bigger, you're still going to have that appetite. And what happens when you shut yourself out from all that and you say, I'm just going to go cold turkey and I'm going to eat a piece of lettuce, is the mindset really messes with you and you start to lose confidence. You start to get hungry. You start to feel awful. And a lot of times I think it leads to failure. Speak on that as far as like, your experiences when you first started and how you, started to plan how you were going to eat and so on and so forth.
Okay. So I actually had a really wonky start to this whole thing. I watched the documentary and I was convinced, due to some of the current health issues I have,
Sure,
I gotta go plant-based. So
right.
when I started doing DDPY, I was doing a plant-based diet. And I mean, I wanted to die. Nothing against people who do plant-based. I didn't grow up eating solely fruits and vegetables. So it was very difficult for me to make that adjustment.
Right.
And man, I probably did it for 2 weeks. And then I kind of switched more to veganism.
Okay.
And I struggled a lot with veganism. What I started doing was I started moving towards like, hey, well, it's not meat, it's not dairy. I'm eating stuff like tortilla chips and stuff like that. I'm starting to like justify, because, well, as long as I can still call myself a vegan, what I'm doing is good for me. And I started to realize I'm still eating some things right now that aren't beneficial for me, especially where I'm at.
Right.
And I finally kind of reached out, and we can probably get into this a little bit later, but I'd reached out to Dallas and I said, hey man, I think I want to do your eating plan. And when I switched to the phase 3 eating plan of DDP Yoga, I mean, I lost 14 pounds that week and I was already over a month in. So
right.
It's been tough making those adjustments. But the crazy thing is, I'm not a fruit and vegetable guy,
Right.
but I've had a lot of success right now, and I feel like my mind and my body are adjusting to where those things don't seem so foreign to me. A friend of mine, from work yesterday, she gave me a cucumber, and I took a bite of a cucumber, and I don't eat cucumbers, man, and I got it down. I did okay, so I'm trying a lot of new things now that I wouldn't normally try, and I'm surviving. So,
well, no, and that's key too. It's like, I'm not a big fruit and vegetables guy. Like there's very, limited in what I'll have, but like, I'll tell you what, I found that a success for me personally, and I know this won't work for everybody, but what worked for me the best was like what I call hacking the system. In other words, like, okay, yeah, I'll have that salad, but I'll have, some chicken with it and some of the dressing and stuff like that. And I know, again, like super healthy people have just grown, but like for me and being nearly 400 pounds that I was, this is the thing that helped me get it down. And then eventually over time you develop new habits and new taste to what you like. It's like, for instance, I dialed back from eating a ton of potato chips, and instead I found like the little bags, where it's like 150 calories per bag, and I'd have like 1 bag a day. Well, guess what? What happened now is after 6 months of that, I said, okay, let me see if I can phase out this bag and replace it with one of those little Del Monte little diced peaches fruit cups.
Yeah.
Really love those. And so I was eventually able to replace the little Dorito bag with a cup of diced peaches, which again may not be super insanely healthy for you, because I know there's still a little bit of sugar in there, but it's like this is how the mindset shifts for me personally. It's going to be different for everybody. But when I say these things, it's like I hope that people will hear it and think, okay, how can I hack it, quote unquote, and make it work for me? And then what you'll find eventually is that the habits will change over time.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it is, all of our bodies operate a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to see someone and see their success and want to just like use the method they got, because, I'm just hoping that I get the same level of success. And what I've had to realize is my body is going to respond a little bit differently than everybody else's. So I've tried to, kind of like you're saying, I've made little tweaks here and there.
Sure.
And when I see better responses here than there, I'm just trying to grow in that direction. I'm just trying to say, okay, so this works better for me. This over here did not. Like when I was in Austin last week,
Right.
rice and soy sauce don't work well for me. So, I'm just having to learn little bit by little bit. Even though something might not be like overtly unhealthy, it might just not work well for me right now with the current goals I have.
Sure. No, I hear you. And that's really the way to go. It's like I look at Dallas's eating plans and it kind of scares me a little bit. And I'm not quite ready to go full bore into that direction. But you know what? I'm never ruling it out. It's like I'm maybe a month or two into the DDP yoga. And it's like for now, I wanted to just see how I could, learn this stuff early on and just, do the workouts for now. And then eventually I can, pivot into some of the food plans. But for now I do kind of what works for me. And that's really what you got to do. And it's just like he says, make the workouts, make the plan, work for you. And I think that is super important. I'm glad he says that because so many people I think fall into a trap of, okay, I'm going to buy this program. Let's just say it's DDP yoga. And let's just say Dallas wasn't the kind of person to say, make it your own. People buy a program and they think I have to do it to a T exactly how it is. And then what happens is if they fail at it, if they do something wrong, they get in their head and they say, oh, I'm such a piece of garbage. I messed this up. Oh, I'm terrible. I'm going to quit. And they just give up. What I like about what he does, it's like, hey, here's a modification, make this work for you. I love that. I think that's a better philosophy. And I think it helps people along the way to, learn a different way of thinking. It's like, hey, yes, I can take whatever this workout is and I can make it work for me rather than trying to follow it to a T, not being able to perform to a T and thus, slumping and ultimately thinking terribly of themselves.
Yeah, man, I agree. It's like one of the quotes from Arthur Borman. I feel like he's like the original, inspiration is, just because I can't do it today doesn't mean I won't be able to do it tomorrow, basically. So that's I love the fact that because when you watch these workouts and you see these people at the performance center, it would be easy, kind of like you're saying, kind of get down on yourself because maybe you can't you can't hit a move the way you need to. And
sure.
But for the fact that Dallas is constantly saying, this is how you modify, and it's okay. Like if you're modifying, you'll get there, but it's okay. Like it feels like it gives you the permission to struggle because we all struggle.
Sure. You have to lose to learn how to win. You have to lose so many times before you learn how to win. I've been doing podcasting for 12 years now until the last year. I finally started to figure this thing out and hit a stride. I've been doing DDP yoga now for almost 2 months. Do I do all the moves perfectly? No, but I'm on the path. You have to learn how, you have to lose in order to learn how to win. And that's so important.
Yep.
Before we really get into the DDP stuff, so the 500-pound mark is like the highest you got. When did you first reach that point? Like, so we're talking, back when you're at Burger King and you're 16 and all that stuff. When do you over how much time does it take you to reach that peak weight?
So, when I was 16 is when I bumped up to 321.
Right.
And I mean, I tell people all the time, I was at 321 for years, a long, long time. I'm convinced that only when you put the effort to lose weight is your body ready to gain more.
Yep.
So I finally got it in my head. I got to lose weight. Joined a Gold's Gym, got down to 265 pounds.
Wow. Okay.
Quit, bumped back up, got closer to 400. And I was at 400 for a while.
Right.
Got close to, I think, maybe 450. And then I started getting really serious about walking and just trying to cut calories, got back down to 350. And that was probably in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
Met my wife online and moved out to Texas. And just kind of, there was so much going on. I got really lazy, made a lot of excuses, and started putting weight slowly back on. So I think I met her when I was 350. By the time we got married, less than a year later, I was already back to 420.
Yeah.
And, we got married, I think when I was 28. So I've spent the last, 8 years creeping closer and closer to 500. And it was just near our anniversary this year. Our anniversary is on the 1st of January. And I went and got on the scale because we were going out. It was kind of like our last night before I was going to start this new eating plan and start DDPY.
Sure.
So I jumped on the scale and I was like, well, let's just see where it is. And it said 521. And I was just like, holy cow.
Right. And so before you get to that point where you're like, okay, I need to make a change right before you start DDP, was there a moment or something where it put you into this mindset, or did it just, I mean, obviously I don't think you just woke up and said, I'm just going to do this. Like what
No,
was it?
it's kind of a culmination of a few things, really. Right before I started this, I mean, just a couple months ago, I was just really, really in a rough spot.
Right.
What a lot of people don't know, but a guy like Vance Hines know, because like when I met Vance for the first time,
What a guy.
we're talking like everything I'm saying about my struggles. Yeah, I see it in his eyes. Vance knows those struggles.
Yes,
and,
he does.
You know, I'm sitting there trying to talk to him about how hard it was, you know, just for personal hygiene. You're trying to stay clean when you use the restroom, and he's like, he knows, he gets it, and like just trying to take a shower. You know, you get to the point when you get to a certain size where just reaching around your body becomes almost impossible.
Yeah.
And I was there, and I was, you know, to the point to where I couldn't fit in my car anymore. And so it's like, I finally told my wife, and this was maybe a week or two before I started. I was just really upset one day. You know, she's trying to, you know, motivate me and get me into a better mood. And I told her, I said, I just want to die. I said, I hate feeling like this every single day, and I just don't want to do this anymore. And it's when I like heard myself speak those words,
Yeah.
I just realized like I've allowed myself to get to this point. So, you know, that coupled with just realizing that like my health, I mean, I've got type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure. I've got an enlarged heart. And I mean, my body is a kidney stone making factory. I've got all these things that are just not going well for me, and I'm not trying to manage them. So,
Right.
I just had to have like a realization that if I'm ever going to be around for my son as he starts to get older and be the husband that I promised to be to my wife, I've got to make a change, and it's got to happen now.
Yeah. No, that's key. And when you were talking before about kind of going up and down with the, you know, the scale and, you know, starting and stopping, it's like we've all been there. People that are listening right now, they hear exactly what you're saying and they can feel it. And this is why, you know, I'm always talking about my friend Daryl. If you don't know him, I got to connect you guys because he's an amazing person as well. We're always talking about, you know, don't give up. Don't restart. You know, and it's easier said than done. I get it. But when you think about it, you know, when you think about like you started and some of the numbers you're throwing out there, it's like you're losing almost 100 pounds, if not 100 pounds in these times when you tried and then you go back up. And it's like, you know, just think about what could be if you didn't stop, if you maybe said, okay, you know, I have a little slump here, but it's not over. I'm not done. I got more in the tank. And then you just get back up. You have a bad day, a bad week, whatever. And then you get back up and you keep going. It's like, you know, we talk all the time on here about just not giving up, just keep going forward. And that's so key because I've dealt with it. You've dealt with it. So many people have dealt with it where you start and stop and start and stop and start and stop until finally you just say enough. So for the people that are listening, if you're maybe there's somebody listening, I guarantee there's at least one person listening right now that's in the middle of, let's just say, their first weight loss journey, right? And maybe they're at that point right now where they're saying, I just have to quit. Whatever's not going right. I just have to stop. And at this point, this is when I always say this. It's like you got to slow down. Number one, you have to reflect on what's going on. You have to adjust and you got to keep pushing. Just don't stop. That's so important.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's been one of the biggest things that has brought me down over the years is I can't tell you the amount of time I've spent thinking, man, if I had just kept going,
yeah,
7 years ago, I would have been the me I want to be. 5 years ago, I would have been the me I wanted to be. But all the time that I've wasted just being down on myself, I could have been there and could have been living this life for a long time. So yeah, that's a big part of it. And kind of like what you're saying, you know, I only now in my life have I ever said like, hey, like you're gonna fail sometimes, but fail forward. I heard somebody, Will Smith, in a video saying like, you know, if you're gonna fail early, fail often, and fail forward. So it's like the idea of like, hey, like you said, we're going to fail in order to get to our successes, and it happens, but always be pushing forward, especially like you said, don't stop, because only when you stop are you going to, you're going to revert back, but as long as you just continue to push forward, we're going to have failures along the way, and that's okay. I mean, to me, it's just a part of the journey. No journey is nothing but success.
Exactly. I mean, think about it like this. This is kind of an extreme example, but I'm known for my simple mindedness here. So you think about a car crash, right? When you're on the highway, and if you just stop, if you slam on your brakes, the guy behind you is going to smash right into you. You're just going to be brought to nothing. Like, even if there's a car crashing right in front of you, you slam on your brakes and somebody's going to hit you right from behind, guaranteed. If you slow down a little bit, right? You slow down, you reflect what's going on around you. You might have a second to where you can get over into another lane, get out of the way, pull over, stop, whatever. But the point is, it's like not stopping. If you have to pause, pausing is fine. Pausing for a day, a week, whatever that is completely fine. Stopping, giving up, going back to the same stuff, I say try not to at all costs. Try not to do that. Just keep going. But even if it's at a slower rate, last summer, man, I had a rough August. It was right around my birthday. I had 2 family members that passed, and I was ready just to like throw in the towel. But I said to myself, like, dude, hey, we've been here before, man. We're not doing this again. You got people out there now that are like watching what you're doing, and you cannot come out here and preach hard work always wins and all this stuff and try to inspire people if you just give up and you're a failure. Like, I'm not having that. So, never stop. Slow down if you must, but never stop. And that is so key, man.
Yeah, I agree. Especially like what you're saying, slow down. That might sound kind of counterintuitive to people, but to me, I think it's important to kind of learn your pace.
Yes.
Don't burn yourself out early on, because that's one thing I've only started to grow more in my DDPY workouts, because when I started out, I was probably doing 3 a week, and I was struggling sometimes to get those in. But I told myself, hey, if 80% of weight loss is, related to your eating plan, then I don't need to sit here and focus on killing myself in the beginning to match everybody else's effort on the workouts.
Right.
I'll grow. So yeah, I definitely think, you gotta find your pace and, and grow in that, but don't think that you've got to be going 100 miles an hour in the beginning.
It's a diet culture, man. It makes a lot of people think you got to have it quick, fast, easy, overnight, diet pills and wraps and all this other stuff. And, look at this guy just scrolled past on Instagram. He lost 180 pounds in a week. And I'm sitting here, I've lost 0.5 or I gained 0.5. My God. It's just the diet culture, man. And it'll mess with your mind. It is something fierce, and you got to watch out for that stuff. But you've got the right idea. There's a lot of smart people listen to this podcast. They got the right idea. Just go on at your own pace. But let's talk about this DDP yoga. We all had our time where we found out about it. When did you find out about it? How did you find out about it?
Man, I actually found out about it, I think maybe a couple of years ago. I saw Arthur Borman's video.
Yeah.
And of course the video is incredible. I mean, if it doesn't, bring tears to your eyes, what's wrong. But
exactly.
I watched the video, but then I'm like, and when I saw that it was Dallas, I was like, oh, get out of here. Because I mean, Dallas was my absolute favorite wrestler. I'm performing diamond cutters on my friends watching pay-per-views when we're like 15.
Also, you're a wrestling fan as well. I love it.
Oh yeah, grew up a wrestling fan. So when I see that he's the one doing it, I'm like, well, this is awesome. And I don't know what it was, man. Like, I saw them doing the moves and stuff, and I guess I just, I guess I'm like some people where I think, well, no, it's got to be something like, CrossFit or P90X. I'm never going to get where I need to be doing stuff like this. So I just kind of dismissed it.
Yeah.
Didn't really see it again and say, you know what, like, this could work for me, until I saw Vance's video a couple months ago. Because truthfully, the weird thing is, it was all timing. Like, I had told my wife, I think I want to do yoga, because when I'm talking about it's hard to bend around just to, clean myself in the shower, I'm dealing with flexibility issues. I can't move.
Yep.
And I see people do yoga, and I see poses and stuff on Instagram, and I'm like, I'd give anything to be able to move around like that. So for Christmas, she actually buys me a yoga block and a yoga mat. I had no thing set up yet, no DDP yoga. And she said, I know you wanted to start. So I'm thinking about finding a yoga app, maybe on the App Store, that I can do daily.
Yeah.
And then I saw Vance's video, and I'm like, holy cow, like, this is, DDPY. I can get into this. So that was where I really kind of started to dive more into it and learn more about the program.
And here's Vance, a guy that was at a very similar weight, was he not? I mean, it's pretty close, right?
Yeah, man. 475, I think, is where he started. So we were pretty close.
Yeah, I saw that video and I broke down into tears when I saw that. I mean, I've been on this current journey since January of 2017, and I've, done a lot of work at the gym, cardio and weights and all that stuff. And I saw this video and I just stopped dead in my tracks. And I was like, okay, first of all, I'm super inspired. Second of all, I got to wipe these tears off my face. Third of all, I need to hit this guy up and get him on the podcast and hear his story. And so he came on and he did the podcast. He's a phenomenal guy. I'm jealous actually that you've met him, because I told him, I said at one point, man, we're gonna hang out. I got to meet you. But what an inspiring guy, seriously.
He is, man, and he's so inspiring. What I tell everybody. I've only actually hung out with Vance twice now. I've talked to him on the phone a few times, and we text every day. But
right,
he is one of the most humble people you'll ever meet. For what like his life has transformed into, due to like just the popularity surrounding his video.
Sure,
couldn't find a more humble guy, and for me, that's what makes it so easy to want to like kind of try and model and emulate what he's doing, as far as like just his level of determination,
yeah,
and like intensity that he goes at this with. I mean, the dude's an incredible mentor to have. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah, what an incredible guy. So you see this video, and I mean, most people have seen this by now. If you haven't, just type in DDP Vance or whatever. It's got like 25 million views on YouTube, which is just insane.
Yeah.
Nice. So you see this video, and then, you've already got the mat, you've already got the block. I still need to get one of those, by the way, the block. And so at this point you're just like, this is it. I got to do this.
Yeah. Well, my wife was the one, when I saw it, she could see, I think, in my eyes, like, oh, he looks like he's ready to commit to something. And she's like, babe, you just need to do this. Like, I've always told people, my wife, Ashley, she is just like, she's my original motivator. She's always trying to motivate me and encourage me. So she's pushing, like, you need to do this. And like so many people who do DDPY, like I downloaded the app, didn't do a thing with it for a week.
Right.
So I downloaded on the 7th of January, didn't do my first workout till the 14th. So I was like, let's do this in about a week.
Yeah. I feel you, man. Sometimes you gotta know when it's right. You can't rely on others to tell you when it's the right time, especially when you got people that are just trying to tell you, do this, do that. This is how you have to do it exactly this way. Why haven't you done it yet? Get those people out of your brain. A lot of them mean well, but at the same time, it's like, you got to know when you're ready. Like, you will know. And so the fact that you even waited a week, like that's perfect evidence. It's like, I know when I'm ready. I know when my body's ready. All right, let's go. Right.
Yeah.
Talk about that first workout, man. What was that like?
So I didn't really know where to start. You're looking at the different plans, and I've had a lot of people ask me, where'd you start? And how do I know where to start? And I was like, man, you're asking the wrong guy. I didn't know where to start. So I was looking, and there's different workout plans, I guess. And I saw, well, there's this beginner series. And I looked at that and I thought, no, this stuff looks a little too intense for me right now. So then I look at the rebuild series, and I'm like, well, they got some where you start out in the bed. And I like to think that maybe I was a little further along. So I went to where you're sitting in a chair. So the first workout I did, man, was like, I think it was like the Diamond Dozen compilation or something, where you're just sitting in a chair. And
yeah.
I'm going to be honest, some of the moves were really hard, but I kept thinking, like, I don't know. I think maybe I can push a little harder, so, but that was the first one I did. I think it was the Diamond Dozen in a chair, in a seated position.
And that's, when you think about it, fast forward just a little bit, 3 months in now, and I guarantee that these workouts feel great now, right? I mean, obviously you're probably still modifying a little bit just with the size of your body, the shape of your body, but like at the same time, I bet you feel pretty amazing after these workouts.
Oh yeah, I'll say, and just for anybody who's listening, I modify all the time. All the time. But yeah, I mean, like, there are days where, my wife probably hears me say on a daily basis, my back hurts probably 10 times, but I get done doing a workout and I mean, I just feel elongated, man. Like, I feel so much better. And there are days when it's so hard to talk myself down to the mat.
Yeah.
But when I'm kicking out at the very end of it, man, like I feel incredible.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing about the program. And I should just clarify here, because I don't want them to think we're reading an ad here. I don't get paid a dime from DDP Yoga, and to my knowledge, you don't get paid a dime by them either. We're just speaking
No.
we're just speaking the truth about this program, because it is phenomenal, man. I mean, just the way I feel, like, I'll just put it, the best way I can explain it, it's like, for the last 2 years, I had been going to the gym and doing the cardio and the weights. And I mean, it's great, but then Dallas comes along and says, well, you can do only DDP yoga and you can see great results and it'll be a great workout and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, challenge accepted. And so you mean to tell me that when I squeeze the glutes and flex the quads and all that stuff, that I can stand still, go up into grab the ball, go into touchdown and all that stuff. And you're going to tell me that my heart rate is going to shoot up standing still? You got to be kidding me. But it's a real thing, bro.
Yep.
I got the Apple Watch and I look at my heart rate and it just shoots right up.
Yeah, it's incredible. I waited, I think, a week or two before I got a heart rate monitor. I actually talked my wife into letting me buy an Apple Watch, and it wouldn't sync with the app. And being the techie that I am, I'm like, no. This app is going to have my heart rate on it. So I went out and bought the Wahoo ticker and put that up there. And man, I honestly, like I've told a few people, it kind of gamifies the workouts, because when I can see my heart rate on my television while I'm hitting it,
right,
like I see myself going into the white, I know I need to kick in a little harder. And when I'm up in the red and I'm really, topping out in the red, I know to back off a little bit. So it's like, it helps me, one, to know how to stay in a safe range, but it also helps me because once I've done a workout for maybe a week or two and I start to see I got to push a lot harder to get it into the green and the red, that's what I use to tell me, like, hey, as long as you're hitting the moves, like, you can probably move on now.
Man, I need to get me one of those. It's been on my list. I just been kind of procrastinating on it a little bit. I got a couple of trips I've been saving up for, but once I get my ass back home and I'm just, home on the regular, I need to get one of these things, because, I'm sitting there getting them points after the workout. I'm like, man, I could have multiplied it a little bit had I, hit this and that. And I'm just like, damn, I need to step up my game.
Yeah, it's dirt cheap on Amazon. And that's what I've told people, like, for the extra points, it's really good. But for me, he says it all the time during the workouts, but like, it is like, how do I know, outside of the fact that I can physically do the moves a little easier,
right,
how much better I'm doing without it? And it's true. Like, I can really see, like, man, now I'm actually hanging out in the green zone more. So it's, like I said, it gamifies it for me. It's almost like going after those, Xbox gamer score points.
Yeah.
I'm just watching. I'm just like, come on, I'm trying to get more and more in that green zone.
All right. I think you've pushed me over the edge now a little bit. I'm
All right.
I was putting it off, and I was eventually going to get one, but now I got to accelerate this thing. I got to put this thing on like same day delivery Amazon and get my ass together here. Man, this is crazy. So you started doing it. You started in the chair. How long would you say before you started, like, before you're able to get out of the chair and do the workout? Because obviously now you're not really doing the chair stuff. Like, how long was it before you got out of it?
Honestly, man, I think I did 3 workouts in the chair. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go for standing with chair. And if I just blow it and it's not right for me, I'll go back. And
right.
I did the first stand strong. And I mean, stand strong was not easy, but I did it, like I had to modify a little bit, but I was like, all right, if I can do it standing, I'm not going back to the chair. So I chose to stay and stand strong. But man, I went from stand strong 1 to stand strong 2, and I spent almost a month on those 2 workouts.
No kidding.
They were that tough for me. I mean, it just, stand strong 2 wore me out. Stand strong 3, by far my least favorite workout I've done throughout the entire program.
Yeah.
It always wore me out. But yeah, I probably used the chair for around a month, maybe even almost like a month and a half. I was doing workouts where the chair was basically my support system.
Do you still modify with the chair at all, or are you kind of on the block now?
Nah, man, I use the block, and truthfully, the block still makes me a little nervous too.
Yeah.
I watch all the people in the video talk about pushing their weight into the block, but I guess sometimes I get nervous about it rolling or something on me.
Sure.
So I definitely use the block to get up and stuff like that, and I have to use it sometimes too when I'm twisting my arm open and stuff. But yeah. I'm just trying to get better about, even if I got to go slow, just trying to be able to actually push off my quad and get my back knee off the ground into like a lunge, because the move that by far I struggle the most with is like the runner's lunge and supported lunge. I'm just a big guy, man. So much of my weight sits in my belly. Like, it's hard, but that's where I just have to modify by stepping in.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I could tell you the hardest one for me right now is the plank by far. I actually did an IGTV video today trying to do the plank, but my belly, just trying to keep it off the ground at times. I know people will look at my Instagram and say, you're looking good, slim or whatever. There's still a belly under there, folks. And I don't hide that at all. And it's still, it's hard, man.
Well, yeah, and the planks are hard. I try to do like the alligator plank, and it might not even look like I'm off the ground, but for me to get my stomach off the ground is so hard because it's just weighing down so much. So a lot of times when I'm trying to do a regular plank, it almost looks like I'm in a down dog.
Yeah.
But if I try to level out to be like a nice plank, I mean, my stomach will touch the ground. It's still so big. So,
well, I hear you, man. But I mean, you're making insane progress. So far to date, I know you said the numbers earlier. I'm terrible with math. So far to date, since you started DDP Yoga, how much weight are you down?
Man, I think it's like it's around 70 pounds right now is where I'm at. I'll know tomorrow my official weigh-in, but right now I think I'm around 70.
That is phenomenal, brother. You are absolutely crushing this. Like right now, I want people to go. I want people to go right now. A lot of most of the people on this podcast are from Instagram. So let's do this. Throw out your IG handle real quick, if you would.
So on Instagram, it's Chasing My Change.
Very clever. Very clever. Well played, sir. I want everybody to stop what you're doing right now. Most of you listen on your phone. So, and if you're an iPhone, you're really intelligent. Do that little swipe up deal, whatever app you're in, swipe up, go home, open up the Instagram app and type in Chasing My Change. Go right now. Don't wait 5 minutes to do it. Don't wait till this podcast is over to do it. I want you to do it right now. I want you to follow him. I want you to hit him up and follow this man's journey because he's doing some amazing things. Now, you've been on the Instagram. We talked a little bit about it. Talk about the support of the community and what you found since you started really going hard on Instagram here.
Yeah, so that's been crazy. I've had a huge amount of support from the online community. Kind of before I talk about that, I'd like to talk a little bit about just kind of the support that I get just from the people who live around me as well.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, I've got the support from my wife at home, but I have a phenomenal church family that support me like crazy. I've got definitely a few guys that have been with me really ever since I've been trying to lose weight, and they're always hugely supportive, and friends of mine that I work with. So I've got a huge support system there, and kind of have for a long time.
Yep.
And my wife is the one pushing, saying, "Hey, you should create like an online account." And of course, Vance was pushing, telling me to do the same thing.
Yep.
I was a little late to do it, but I went ahead and put it out there, and the response that I got was it was really awesome. It wasn't anything like what I expected. I share a lot on the DDP Yoga Facebook group. I share most of it on my Instagram.
Yep.
But people have just been so nice, just trying to encourage me and just basically trying to some people give me hints and tips and things like that on things that have worked for them as well. So yeah, the online community has been it's been a huge boost because there's a lot of days, where, I don't really feel like doing anything, especially, if I'm on the road or something like that. But
sure.
Kind of like what you, knowing that people are looking, knowing that people are watching, especially if somebody said like what you're doing is inspiring them, you don't want to let people down. It gives you an extra boost.
Yeah. You never know who's watching, man. You got to keep grinding.
Yeah.
Well, you've done phenomenal. We've said it all here. I mean, you've done some phenomenal work. I think you're going to continue to do it. We'll close out on this. I want you to think real hard, man. Close your eyes if you have to. Think real hard, like 3, 5, 10 years down the line. What are some of the goals you're working on? Where do you hope to be in the next 5 years?
So I'll kind of talk about maybe my most immediate goals and then kind of go further out.
Let's do it.
So some of the goals that I have now are newer goals, but they're definitely some of the more immediate goals that I want to meet. But my goal is to lose 326 pounds. I want to get to 195. So
yeah,
that's a big goal for me, and that's going to take time. I have a goal that I would love to be able to make it to Summit next year with DDPY. So I think that would just be that would be incredible to be around all these people who have been so inspirational and who have experienced so much success and motivated so many other people.
Yeah.
And just other goals that I have really are just to be able to, I want to be able to do more with my family. You know, I mean, honestly, I think that as I start to lose more weight, get into the 300s, there will be a lot of things that I currently say no to that I'll be able to say yes to with my wife, my kids, hanging out with them. But, you know, stuff like, you know, kayaking. I want to learn how to kayak. I've never done it, but I think that would just be a phenomenal thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
Ride bike. You know, I see Vance always, you know, riding miles and miles a day. And I'm like, man, I want to get on a bike too. So those are just some of my far out there goals that I'd like to be able to enjoy. But I really, really want to be able to get certified as an instructor in DDP yoga.
That's huge.
That's kind of a big goal for me. Once I get to a point to where I feel like, you know, that's something that I can really offer. I would love to be able to offer what this program brings and gives to people in like the Dallas area where I live.
Definitely. I can tell you this. We've been following each other for about a month or so now, maybe a little bit longer, but I can see it in your eye. I can see it in the hard work you're putting in, the determination. You're going to reach all this stuff. Like, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And it just takes time. I operate on 4 pillars in life, Chase. It's patience, consistency, hard work, and love yourself. And if you got all 4 of these things, you will reach everything that you want to reach in time, especially practicing patience. You know, don't fall into the traps. Don't let these people tell you got to do it now. You got the right idea, man. Just keep going at your own pace, keep crushing it. I believe in you, my friend. And I know you're going to do really well.
I appreciate it.
And so I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. And again, it is Chasing My Change, right?
Yep, Chasing My Change. And hey, I appreciate you having me on, man. I really do.
Definitely, man. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And again, Chasing My Change. And the people who are listening, you guys should have done that 5 minutes ago when I told you the first time, but that's all right. Even if you didn't get to it now, get to it right now before this podcast ends right now. So Chase, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. Keep in touch. Send me your info. I'll get that sent out to you. And man, thanks for the chat. It was awesome.
All right, man. Good talking to you.
Remember at the beginning of the show, I mentioned a little thing called Patreon? Well, I'd love to have you join me. But Gary, what is Patreon? It's a website that is helping small creators like me raise funds to further expand their creative visions. For as low as $1 a month, you can help me further my dream of reaching as many people as possible and eventually taking the show on the road to meet all these fine people face to face and add a video element to this podcast. If you were to donate $4 a month, you'd be hearing this show a few days earlier with no commercials and getting access to my close friends group on Instagram. Donate $10 a month and you get all that plus your name right at the beginning of the show alongside other producers. But act fast. That tier is limited to 10 people. I've got a whole lot more to offer and you can get all the details over at patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you. Thanks so much for checking out the show and I'll talk to you again really soon. hardworkalwayswins.com. It's more than just a clothing line. It's my mantra. I speak it, I wear it, I live it, and I'd love to have you join the Hard Work Squad. We're constantly adding new items to the store, including our brand new Future-ish hats, which come in a variety of colors, including camo. I mean, who doesn't like camo? We also just put our famous Splash logo in gold to match our OG logo, and there's so much more here. You just got to check it out. Here's the best part. Use the code PODCAST at checkout to take 10% off of your very first order and join the Hard Work Squad today.